Welcome back to the OSM channel. In today's video, I'd like to show you how I clean my chainsaws. Before we get into that part of the video, I'd like to answer a few questions. For one, why bother cleaning your chainsaws? Well, think about it. When we're sawing through logs, that creates a lot of dust, and that dust embeds itself throughout different areas of the saw, and it's critically important that we clean the saw thoroughly and get all that dust out of there to ensure that the saw is running as efficiently as possible, but also to reduce wear. A few key areas that we need to focus on. For one, the fan area, we need to ensure that we remove all that dust out of there to ensure that the saw can cool itself and prevent overheating. Another area that we need to focus on is the air filter, right? Like if we constrict the amount of air going into the engine, the saw isn't going to have as much power as it should have. And the third area in which we really need to focus our cleaning efforts on is the chainsaw bar lubrication system. So where the bar mates to the saw, there's a little oiling slot. We need to ensure that that remains open. But additionally, where the chain rides within the bar, there's that slot, and that slot likes to collect dust and sap. So if that channel, that oiling channel within the bar gets clogged, our bar oil isn't going to be able to distribute itself throughout the entire length of the bar, thus increasing friction and increasing wear on the bar. So it's really important that we thoroughly clean this saw. Next question I want to answer is, how frequently should you clean your chainsaw? Well, this is going to vary from person to person. Let's take a quick look in our owner's manual. So our steel owner's manual states that we should clean the saw after every use or daily. A rule of thumb for me, I like to clean my saw after every 5 or 6 tanks. But mind you, I live in the Northeast, mainly cutting through hardwoods. So if you're out west and you're cutting through a lot of pine, pine tends to have a lot of sap. Thus, it's more likely gonna clog up the chain slot in your bar quicker than cutting through hardwood. So you may need to clean your saw more frequently. If you have a sharper chain, you're gonna find that you don't have to clean your saw as frequently because a sharper chain is gonna produce bigger chunks. Thus, you're gonna have less dust being sucked into the saw. So again, it's gonna vary from person to person. For me, after every 5 or 6 tanks. So what tools are you gonna need? Well, at the very least, you're gonna wanna have a compressed air wand and obviously a scrunch. Some other tools that would be handy to have: a small flathead screwdriver for picking out nooks and crannies, especially in the bar cover. I have a chainsaw depth gauge tool. I like this because on the end of it, it has this skinny rounded hook, and this is excellent for cleaning out the bar slot where the chain rides. Also helpful to have a solvent, brake parts cleaner, diesel, kerosene, starting fluid, just something to remove sap and get your saw extra clean if you so choose, and of course, a rag. All right, we have our saw broken down. We have our chain, our bar cover, our bar, the power head, as well as the engine cover. Now, cleaning the chain. Personally, I don't clean the chain. Then again, I live in the Northeast, deal with hardwoods mainly. I hear guys out west that deal with a lot of sappy pines. They may have to clean their chains due to the amount of sap collection on the chain. I've heard of guys soaking their chains in diesel or kerosene to remove that sap. You guys let me know what you do, but to me, this is a $10 disposable chain from Amazon. It does the job just fine, but I've never had a sap issue. Thus, I really don't clean my chains, but you guys can do whatever you need to do. So I'm going to start by cleaning the power head. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my garbage can over here, and I'm going to pick out all the large areas of debris with the flat end on my scrunch and a little flathead screwdriver. After we knock out all the big bits of debris, we're going to take this outside and we're going to hose it down with our air wand. Really important when hosing the power head down with the air. You want to be careful not to direct that air directly into the air filter. You want to try and go sideways on the air filter. You're trying to catch that dust, create a disturbance, and have it kind of blow out of the air filter. You don't want to be pressurizing this dust, trying to push it like deep down into the air filter. Really, we're just trying to get all the loose dust off and get all the main schmutz off the body of the saw. Now, once we get all of that main dust off the saw, then it's safe to remove the air filter, and we can actually blow it from the inside out if we need to. But generally, it doesn't take too much to clean these air filters. I have the power head perched on the edge of the workbench and the garbage directly below. So as we knock this debris out, it should fall right in the garbage. Flat end of the scrunch, just pick this big stuff out of here. From here, you can go right to compressed air, or you can get a little rag and try and get it a little bit cleaner. This looks pretty clean, so let's take this outside and we'll start hosing it down with the compressed air. A few areas I want you to pay attention to though. For one, this slot, this is the oiling slot. So your bar oil is sitting in that holding tank, then it goes through a pump, pumps that bar oil into this slot, allows the little oiling hole on the bar to still receive oil, you know, when it's extended or retracted, you know, depending on the tension you set it at. So you just want to ensure that this slot is nice and clean and just that there's no big debris in here. So, you know, when you're blowing it out, pay close attention to this slot, make sure it gets really clean. And of course, on the other side of the saw, your caps, right? Your caps are really important. Let me make sure you're in focus. Compressed air does a fantastic job of getting all the little dust and debris out of the areas in between the cap and the tanks. So just ensure that you blow these out good, get them really clean. So if you look at where your pull cord is, you'll notice that there is a cooling fan in here, and this is really important to ensure your saw doesn't overheat. So I like to start right here, just blow this out as thoroughly as possible. You know, if you find that there's a lot of gumming on the fins of your cooling fan, you may have to pull your pull cord cover to really clean this area thoroughly. Typically I pull this once a year and get in there and clean it out real good. Make sure you wear your safety glasses. So we have our power head nice and clean. Next thing I'm going to clean is the engine cover as well as the bar cover. Now the engine cover isn't too bad. I'll take this outside off camera and just blow it out with some compressed air. I'll do the same thing with the bar cover, but before I take this outside, I'm going to get in here with my small flathead screwdriver, and there's a wear pad right here. In between this wear pad and the magnesium cover, a lot of long wood fibers like to collect in here, so I just like to pick out as much as I can with this small flathead. And again, then we'll take it outside and blow it off real good. Now, if you're out in the bush or you don't have access to an air compressor, something I keep in my kit is this little brush as well. So, see all this loose sawdust? You can take this brush and you actually can knock a fair bit of it out of here with this brush. You see how that's kind of beaten up? Yes, it's kind of oily. Yes, it's not going to be perfect, but, you know, between this and a little rag, you can knock a lot of the schmutz out of here without compressed air. I'm going to take these two parts outside off camera and just blow them out real quick. I'm back in from blowing off these two components. You can see they're a little bit better, but there's still some oily residue on them. Now honestly, these are fine to put back on the saw, but if you want to take it to the next level, this is the point where you'd use a little bit of solvent, brake parts cleaner, whatever, diesel, kerosene. You can see how that kind of removes that oil, and just a clean rag. I mean, you could blow it off right now, but the reason I hesitate to blow it off with the solvent on here is because I don't want this blown back in my face. But it's up to you how clean you want to get your saw. You know, if you were storing it for a while, maybe you'd want to put the extra time in to get it super clean. But, I mean, if you're using the thing every day, you know, get it as clean as reasonably possible with the amount of effort you're willing to put into it. Alright, bar cover and engine cover are now clean. Now onto the bar. Now my bar, there's a fair bit of oil and schmutz on here, so I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of solvent first. Try and get some of this oil off here. Alright, now it is time to clean the slot for the chainsaw bar, this slot where the chain rides. And if I pull my screwdriver tip along here, you can already see the amount of debris that's sitting in there. Before we clean that out though, I want to talk about these 3 holes. It's really important you understand how these holes work. So the 2 larger holes opposing one another, one of them will engage with a pin on the power head, and that pin adjusts how far the bar extends out or retracts back in, thus adjusting your chain tension. The smaller hole that is offset and is, maybe a 1/4 inch away from that channel where the chain rides, this is the oiling hole. Remember that oiling slot on the power head? This is where that oiling slot connects to the bar. And it's really, really, really important that this hole remains open at all times, because that allows that bar oil to flow into this channel, thus lubricating the chain. And if we flip the bar over, you'll notice that there's an oiling hole on both sides, thus telling us that this bar can be flipped. And I encourage you, every time you clean your saw, flip your bar over to evenly distribute the wear on both sides of the bar. So if we flip this bar to the tip, you're going to have your sprocket. Now some bars will have a small hole in the vicinity of the center of the sprocket to lubricate this sprocket, to grease it. This steel Roll-O-Matic bar does not have that small grease slot. So this is a non-serviceable sprocket, so we're not going to do anything with this. Now for cleaning out the slot, I like to use this half circle on my depth gauge tool. This is actually what this half circle is designed for, but you can use whatever fits down in this slot. So I like to start at the sprocket, the tip of the bar, and just slide this back. Let's see how much schmutz comes out of here. Not terrible. Do the same thing on the other side. I think there's going to be a lot more on this side. Flip this over so you can see all the stuff coming out of here. Oh yeah. You can see a lot of schmutz came out of there. And that is obstructing the oil from making it all the way around the bar. So again, it's really important that you keep this slot nice and clean. I'm also going to take my compressed air wand, starting at the tip, the sprocket. I'm just going to slide this down along this groove and spray this out into the garbage. Now before you install the bar back on your saw, I want you to take your fingers, put them in the middle of the bar, and then pull back. What you're feeling for is a lip along the channel where the chain rides. You don't want to have a lip here. If you do feel that you do have a lip, it's pretty simple. All you need is a flat file. Just keep it parallel to the bar, nice and flat, and just file towards the center of the bar and just knock off any lip of material that may have curled up. Now that everything's all clean, the final thing to do is to reassemble our saw. Now for setting the chain tension, my method, I like to get the bar nuts hand tight. Now, when I pinch the tip of the bar and lift up and down, you'll notice that there's a little bit of movement. It's really important that when you set your chain tension that you want the tip of the bar up. If you're not really experienced or haven't done this a lot, something you can do is just put a block of wood under the front of the bar. And then for adjusting your chain tension, it varies from guy to guy. A brand new chain, I set a little bit tighter because they tend to stretch a little bit. But typically, I like to set my chain as to where these triangles, when I lift up on the chain, these triangles just about come out of the channel of the bar. Then we need to finish tightening up these bar nuts. They need to be a little tight, but you don't want to over torque them down because you will strip the studs right out of the saw, and I hear they're near impossible to replace. That's all I need. And now we have a nice clean service chainsaw ready for use. If you'd like to learn how to sharpen chainsaw, I'll leave a link for the in-depth instructional video I've created in the description down below. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.